Howdy, reason number 4,368,482 of leaving ShitTube and why you should do that. Don't actually calculate those numbers, I imagine. Howdy, whatever advertising number they want you.
It's Alex Salmond, who served as First Minister of Scotland from 2007 to 2014 and was known as a leader of its independence movement, has died at the age of 69. For several years, he hosted a talk show on RT called The Alex Salmond Show. It sought to battle the mainstream media narrative and look at stories from outside the, quote, Westminster nexus. Scottish Labour leader Anas Sarwar expressed condolences over the death and has described it as a shock. Former British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said that while he might have disagreed with Alex Salmond, there was, quote, no denying his skill in.
Professor Sarah Davies now joining us here live on RT International. Ms. Davies, thank you very much for sharing your time with us here on this Saturday. As terrible as the story continues to be, can you believe it's been more than a year now since the war has been ongoing in Gaza, and despite all the international calls for a ceasefire, for not harming civilians, we still continue to see just shocking numbers of civilian deaths and casualties. How would you, right now, Sarah, describe the current situation on the ground where you are?
Thank you so much for having me. The humanitarian situation on the ground throughout the Gaza Strip, but where I am particularly here in the south, is incredibly challenging for people every single day. You drive down a sandy track, one main sandy track, and there are simply tents and makeshift shelters lining the streets. These are made of rock back to the camps where we...
And they've been fierce battles. What do you know about the northern part of the enclave, please, Sarah?
So we do have a community hotline where people can call in, and currently still have been working.
Region. We know we've been reporting here on RT International, Sarah, that in the past couple of days, some UN mission locations in Beirut have come under Israeli bombardments. We have heard of humanitarian organizations in Gaza coming under fire as well. When it comes to the International Committee of the Red Cross, are you guys being allowed to freely complete and operate your missions there, or are you guys also finding yourselves caught up in the crossfire?
In any conflict situation where we work, of course, there are a multitude of challenges. We do have direct and regular dialogue with both parties to this conflict, and we utilize, that confidential discussion directly with them because of damaged wastewater, damaged sewage systems. When it rains here, everything floods. There is not enough drainage. So it really is critical that vaccination campaigns like these be allowed to finalize, to finish, to reach as many people as...
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has vowed to respond more powerfully than before if Israel retaliates. What do you make of this warning from Abbas Araghchi? Is Iran...
Those were shot down. Most of the ballistic missiles were shot down. When you think of Iran militarily, they really don't have a kind of air force that can get to Israel. The army is 700 miles away, and they're not going to be marching through Syria on their way to Israel. So the ballistic missiles is really the main goal. And after 13,000 rockets in the last year from Hamas, the military installations. So Israel has to respond, and they have to try to eradicate. And I think, Gary, since October 7th, there's been a change in the mindset of Israelis. We can't live with Hamas. We need to take care of them. We can't...
Equating a nuclear weapon, what would be more powerful than a ballistic missile?
Right. A ballistic missile with a nuclear warhead on it would be something more powerful.
So Israel may have no choice then.
Yeah, they might. Exactly. And maybe this is just the opportunity they need after being attacked in April 13th and just a few days ago, when I was like, he said, had to...
Don't Hamas fighters shield themselves with civilians? So
We have some breaking news for you right now coming out of the Middle East, and this comes from UNIFIL, the United Nations peacekeeping force in Lebanon. It says that in a statement last night, a peacekeeper at UNIFIL's headquarters in Naqoura was hit by gunfire due to ongoing military activity nearby. He underwent surgery at the Naqoura hospital to remove the bullet and is currently stable. It says we do not yet know the origin of the fire and the shooting. Also last night, it says buildings in our UN position in Rania sustained significant damage due to explosions from nearby shelling. We remind all actors of their obligations to ensure the safety and security of UN personnel and premises, including avoiding combat activities close to UNIFIL positions. And for context, in the last few days, Israel has struck the UNIFIL peacekeeping force. 2 Indonesian peacekeepers were injured. Previous day, 2 other peacekeepers were injured. And in fact, on Sky News last night, the UN said that they believe that they were deliberately targeted by Israeli forces. On this occasion, it's not clear yet where that gunfire came from, but 1 UN peacekeeper is now in hospital after having to be operated on to remove a bullet. We will keep you across all of these developments on this breaking news as and when we get it. Well, staying with the Middle East then, let's discuss everything that's happening there, including those evacuation orders in the last few hours from Israel. Joining me now is Yasemin Mather, researcher at the University of Oxford Middle East Centre. Good afternoon to you. Let's stay with the UN peacekeeping force issue right now and that breaking news. This seems to be happening with increased frequency now and a serious concern. And this hasn't happened before at this kind of level.
Schools is quite high.
Saying that
The situations that's going on,
killing of
there is the option of Iran's refineries or more extended the oil installations and extraction of oil in because we don't know what has been decided in Israel or indeed if anything has yet been finalized.
Right. Yasemin Mather from the University of Oxford Middle East Centre. Thanks very much.
The October surprise. Every presidential candidate fears the month before the big vote day because it tends to drag a few skeletons out of their closet and derail their bid for the top job. Just ask Hillary Clinton how that FBI probe into her private emails served her. Well, it's October 2024. And right on cue,
Bob Woodward has a new book. He alleges former President Donald Trump secretly kept in touch with Russian President Vladimir Putin even after Donald Trump left office.
The veteran reporter writing that during the early days of the pandemic, while it was raging here in the U.S., that then President Trump secretly sent a number of those rare COVID test machines to Vladimir Putin for Putin's personal use.
A soon-to-be-released book by veteran Washington journalist Bob Woodward is offering a remarkable and shocking look at what President Joe Biden really thinks about some of America's closest allies.
in a few days, a book called War will hit the shelves, written by a man who is no stranger to ending presidential careers. With Biden making his exit anyway, there's no risk of that, but it doesn't hurt to give the man a boost on his way out. Woodward offers us a very different Biden to the one we're used to seeing. This one solves global crises, takes on bad guy Bibi Netanyahu, squares up to dictators like Putin. He's strong, he's calm, he's decisive, he's a true leader. And Kamala is his doting pupil. Trump, on the other hand, is so cozy with the Kremlin that he's basically got Putin on speed dial. Also, Woodward's anonymous sources tell him, sources that he's been building up over a long, illustrious career, crowned by endless New York Times bestsellers and 2 Pulitzer Prizes, most famously for the story that launched him, Watergate.
June 17, 1972,
city editor call.
To a lesser extent, Carl, are credited with being the greatest investigative reporters of all time.
Yes.
But all they did was leak information that the
Note, the robbers hired to do the wiretapping, 4 out of 5 of them were ex-CIA.
Richard Nixon was taken out by the FBI and CIA, and with the help of we can only measure popularity and our other problems around the world. I was going to shape up that organization, and the defense
Secretly sent Putin COVID tests while withholding them from sick Americans.
Bolstered by growing calls to disqualify Trump from the race, who must be sitting in Florida hoping that his Mar-a-Lago floodgates will be enough to hold back not just Milton, but the storm brewing in Washington, too.
From falling into the abyss of chaos and abject cruelty. That's what liberal values, rights, and rules so obstinately foisted onto other nations were supposed to achieve only a few years ago, but nowadays this discourse seems to be falling out of fashion. What's coming to replace it as the justification for ruling the world? Well, to discuss that, I'm now joined by Lawrence Wilkerson, retired U.S. Army colonel and former chief of staff of mine, were harshly interrogated by the FBI with their houses searched, with their family members scared. And that was simply for voicing opinions deemed to be sympathetic to the
on a television show or a media show to express my views about the world situation, including the situation with the United States. I'm not paid for it. I'm not cajoled into doing it. I'm not pressured into doing it. So this is a violation of my constitutional rights should anything occur to me because of this. And I think that's a horrible thing to be happening in a country that proclaims that it is a bastion of freedom.
Well, in that bastion of freedom, in one recent example, a colleague of mine, 30-something-year-old woman, who worked for RT America as a guest producer, so she may have arranged some of the interviews of you with us before. She was interrogated. She was woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning by 20-something agents. She was questioned for 5 hours straight, pretty much undressed because she didn't have time to get dressed. Her house was turned upside down. And what I thought was particularly interesting is that the two main agents interrogating her were of Polish and Ukrainian origin. And I wonder if that is a standard practice for the FBI these days to engage with foreign nationals like that, or is it a specific trait for Russian nationals?
I think the latter, but it is increasingly becoming the modus operandi for a lot of the security element and intelligence elements in my country. And as I said, I'm very alarmed by that. Everything from the prosecution to the guilt of Julian Assange, who was doing his job as a journalist, nothing more, nothing less, to the